Yo, Thought Warriors. What is up? Higher Learning is on. It's Ivan Lathan Jr.
And it's me, Rachel and Lindsay.
Emergency pod. Rachel said we have to do an emergency pod. We have to get on here and talk about it.
Have to.
A story that we've covered since its inception. It began with Cassie making allegations against Diddy in the form of a lawsuit last year. That seems like a million years ago, because since that, he has settled with Cassie. We have seen video corroborating some of the stuff that Cassie said in the lawsuit, namely a brutal assault that took place at the Intercontinental Hotel here in Los Angeles. And on the heels of that, there was a raid at Diddy's home. That raid was done by Homeland Security and some other groups of feds. Now, on the heels of all of that, Sean P. Diddy Combs has been arrested in New York, counts racketeering, sex trafficking, the whole kit and caboodle. The day that a lot of people thought was going to come has come now. It does not look like he's going to be granted bond. As a matter of fact, I think he hasn't been. He's been denied bond. So he is going to be behind bars until he has his day in court.
Yeah. His attorneys, actually everybody's going back to court tomorrow afternoon to again have another hearing on bail to determine whether or not he will remain in custody until the trial.
Okay, so that hasn't been decided.
No, it has been decided. You're right. But just before we hopped on, I saw that his attorneys are still fighting for him to be released on bail. We know that they tried to put up $50 million bond. The judge denied that. Took some time, actually. Took a second to decide that. Took a break. And then came back and said, no, he's going to remain in custody. His attorneys are still fighting. I guess there's another hearing for them to make some other argument. Who knows if the judge will change their mind after that point. Glad we're doing this podcast when we are today, because information still seems to be coming out. At this point, as we're doing this podcast, the courts are closed. Nothing else can be done until tomorrow or in the future. Something that you said in, recapping everything that we've learned since November 2023, Cassie first, and this speaks to the mindset of Diddy, right? No one can really know what he's thinking, but based on actions from that moment to the present, you can make some deductions here. Cassie first tried to settle with him before ever filing the lawsuit.
Yes.
Cassie requested 8 figures. I don't know if we heard it was 30 million or not, but that's the number that stuck in my head. 8 figures she requested. Diddy said no. Uh-huh. She then filed a lawsuit, and within 24 hours, he settled with her. So that right there speaks to the mindset of Diddy in the sense that he thought she wouldn't move forward with it. You could assume that he, based on the allegations and the charges that, the indictment that came out, charges that came out today or that were unsealed, this has been going on. They're starting these from 2008 to the present. So that's where these allegations are starting from. If you think of the mindset of Diddy, he thought, I've been getting away with it this long. You haven't said anything this far. You probably won't move forward with it. And she did. And he immediately settled. He thought he was above the law because he had been above the law for such a long time until this day. Mm. Then other accusations started to come out. Diddy lied. Diddy denied the things that Cassie had in her lawsuit. Diddy has denied everything that has come against him, either said it didn't happen, or if it did happen, it was consensual. Then the video came out. Then he had to apologize for that. Then we saw another insight into Diddy with his apology, which was awful. And even up until he was placed under arrest and to where we are today, all that came out today, the raiding, all that came out today, he was still on the streets hours before, taking pictures with fans, walking the streets, and he knew that he was about to be arrested. According to his own attorney, that's why he was in New York. He knew that this was about to happen, and he was still acting as if he was above the law. Without even reading the details of this indictment, the way he's moving is diabolical. with no regard for anyone but himself, not his family, not the victims, nothing. Nobody but for Diddy. And it's wild to see.
So it's interesting. I think the timeline is different in a way.
Okay.
Really the same, but I think it's different. I think Puff had seen the video way before it got to, I think he settled because of the video.
Well,
I think
he knew the video already existed. He'd already paid.
But
okay.
I don't think he knew that they had it.
Gotcha.
Right. So I think because the lawsuit itself, because think about it this way. When she is asking for a settlement, she's telling him what she's going to say.
Mm-hmm.
They're leveraging what is going to happen. Like she's saying, hey, I'm going to go into deep detail via the lawsuit into the horror that I lived with, the hell that I lived with, all of the things that happened. Remember what's said in the lawsuit, all of the violent stuff that Puff did, but also other things that we don't really focus on now, like an incident that she says happened when he broke into her home after she didn't want to be with him anymore and forcibly raped. There's all kinds of things that are in there. She's detailing a long history of horror and torture at the hands of Diddy, right?
Mm-hmm.
She files it, and then he settles the next day. Something happened. Even beyond the filing, something happened. Because her filing that, his first thing was to say, none of it happened. I didn't do any of it. His first thing to come out and say that this is a money grab or whatever. None of this happened. I didn't do any of this. That's the first thing that he said. Then all of a sudden, boom, after that, a little while later, he settles it. They let him know they had the tape. And once they let him know that they had the tape, he goes ironclad, because the one thing that he has been incredibly loyal to is the idea that no one would believe her.
Yes.
And that tells you his expectations of us. That tells him, and you don't have to be in the us. I'm talking about other people like myself who've failed in situations like this. That tells you his expectations of us. The one thing he was clinging to more than anything, he had to have been clinging to, was the idea that no one would believe her. That is emboldened by years and years and years of operating with impunity and having his behavior and how he carried himself and the things that he did covered up for by people. That there were so many people around and so many people who were part of it, so many people who did whatever that nobody would believe. You know, it's funny. I was thinking about it. There's always been a lot of smoke around Diddy. There's been smoke, there's been smoke, there's been smoke. Yeah, people say that where there's smoke, there's fire. And, you know, I can understand why people would say that. But remember, by the time you see the smoke, somebody's burning.
Yeah.
The question is, do you pay attention to the spark? Do you pay attention to the way you want to craft your life and the things that you see that are out of place and the whispers and things and the accusations around people, somebody's safety, whether or not they look safe, whether or not they feel safe? Do you check in on people? Because by the time you see the smoke, like someone's literally burning up. And so for him, I think that a part of this was that he was made aware that the tape existed and that they had it, and that would be a part of what they shared with people via the lawsuit. And he paid her the money right then. And I think it was even more money than that. And then later on, either the feds got to the tape when they raided his house, or somebody got it from them. Somebody got it from some other source. And after his son came out and dissed the feds, they were like, all right, fuck you. Here's the tape right here, just so everybody knows who you really are.
Well, I think Cassie was already working with the feds by the time she even approached him for a settlement. I do. I think that she had been working on with him, with them. They had been building their case for a very long time before it ever became public knowledge to us. And something you said that really gets me as we find out more and more information. This is the United States of America versus Sean Combs. That's the title of this indictment. But Sean Combs could never have done this by himself. And when you read these 14 pages of this indictment, it talks about the Combs empire. It details who's a part of it, not by name, but how it existed, and then how, as an enterprise, it worked to do these heinous acts to these victims. He didn't work alone. Now, if you're watching the press conference today from the U.S. attorney, he said it's an ongoing investigation. There could possibly be more charges and there could be more people that are brought in. I hope they lock up all these perverted motherfuckers because this is so disgusting. It went on for years, and it only went on because so many people were involved in covering it up. Even to the point, I mean, the young lady, I'm so sorry I cannot remember her name, that was a part of the group with Don Richards, who spoke out when Don Richards is now suing Diddy as well for several charges. And the young lady who's also involved says her name was mentioned 33 times, but she didn't, she's like, that's Don's story. But it's also come out that Diddy called her 54 times.
Allegedly called her 54 times. Yeah.
In one day after Don Richards filed her lawsuit. That's another reason that the prosecutors want to keep him in jail, because it is known that he tampers with witnesses. That is also how he's been able to get away with this for such a long time. So my point is that this is so it's Diddy and them. And I hope that they get every single bodyguard, assistant, friend. Stories have come out that there are your favorite A-list celebrities were witnessed certain abuse.
No.
Said nothing.
So, speak the names. There is
okay,
an alleged
Neo,
incident, and that there's an alleged incident that happened. Not once again, this is an allegation. There's an alleged incident that happened in Don Richard's
is that how you say it?
Lawsuit, and she alleges that Puff assaulted Cassie in front of Neo and Usher, and I think one other person there, like Neo and Usher.
All of you are complicit. You're all complicit.
That's true.
If that's true, you witnessed that or anything else.
Yeah.
You witnessed it, you saw it, you were silent, which means you allowed it to continue. You allowed it to keep going for whatever reason. Scared, you were threatened, whatever it was, but you know right from wrong.
If you see a lady get punched in her face at a table and you don't do anything, it's on you. It's on you.
It's on you.
If that were the case, if anybody around that saw that type of abuse, that was party to that type of abuse, and you didn't do anything, even all the people with stories now that are talking about what they saw and what they witnessed and what they were around and all of that stuff, you're a part of it. I get what you're saying.
You are a part of it. And I really want to hone in on that as we continue to, obviously, and we always want to center, I can't say this enough, the victims who are having to relive the trauma that they went through, cooperating with the feds and the prosecutors in telling their stories and having to deal with the public scrutiny of the decisions that they made or were forced to make or felt like they had no other choice, whatever the situation may be. We want to center you. Our heart goes out to you. I cannot even imagine dealing with this. One, when no one knew, and then two, now that it's on a bigger scale. I just can't even imagine. So I always want to center them. But I really do hope that everybody who was involved, even if his kids were involved, them too, because some of them are adults. Anybody who was involved needs to be held accountable for this type of behavior. Because the wild thing too, Van, is that R. Kelly's already happened. locked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Diddy was still doing the shit. The Me Too movement.
As he watched the entire movement happen and everything going on, he just didn't think that anyone would believe it about him. There's no way.
Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein.
He just didn't think that anyone would believe about him. During that entire time, no one came forward with anything. He must have thought that he had his I's dotted and his T's crossed, and that everybody who needed to get paid had gotten paid, which is another interesting part of this, right? The part of this is that the allegations of his abuse and his criminality are one thing, but the racketeering part of this alleges that this was all part of a very tightly orchestrated criminal network. And the reason why you didn't hear a lot of people coming out and talking about this stuff and what they witnessed is because he had stuff on them. So almost everybody that we're talking about and everyone that's being mentioned in this, the allegations here are that there were blackmail tapes, there were tapes of them doing stuff, there were tapes of them in compromising positions, and some of them were hesitant to speak out on things that they saw or things that they witnessed to or things that they even took part in, because then Puff would release the stuff that he had on them, and therefore they didn't want that to happen. Right. So, and all of that stuff, I mean, look, it says right here, the graphic descriptions of what it says Mr. Combs called freak-offs, highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity in hotels and other locations that were fueled by drugs and could go on for days. At these events, the government says, because there's nothing in that that's specifically criminal, but here it is. Women were plied with drugs to keep them obedient and coerced to participate in sex with prostitutes. So everyone that's saying, oh, Diddy is just like a super duper crazy freak and they're going at him. No, they saying that these women were coerced. Some of them are blackmailed, and that prostitutes are being procured for this, flown across state lines. And it's all part of a choreographed effort to gain leverage over people, to hurt people, and to put people in situations where they don't have any power. He said that these coerced, the ones that were coerced, participating in the orgies, they received IV fluids to recover from physical exertion and drug use. Jesus. He says he would watch these events, sometimes masturbating and recording video. He then used the sensitive and embarrassing and incriminating recordings that he made during the freak-offs as collateral to ensure the continued obedience and silence of the victims. This is according to Damian Williams, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, when he talked about what was seized. When he talked about the case, he also talked about, should I say, what was seized from Diddy's home. Donnie gives us the audio.
As part of this investigation, in March of this year, special agents from HSI executed search warrants at Combs' residences in Miami and Los Angeles. They also executed a warrant for Combs' electronic devices. During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and the large capacity drum magazine. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims. And they seized cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs, more than 1,000 bottles altogether.
1,000 bottles of lubricant
1,000 bottles and baby oil. 1,000, which means you were stocked up. You were still doing it.
Yeah.
He still had video evidence in his house, which means he probably was either actively threatening people or actively watching it. And let's just pause on the name freak-offs. It's literally like a sport to him. It's like the playoffs. It's a game.
It's a rape-off. It's a, like,
it was a rape-off. That's it's like the fucking gladiators.
Yeah.
Like that's how he was. The terminology that he's using, it's like play to him, which is wild when it's assault and rape and harassment, and it was brutal and heinous. And there was abuse. I mean, there was the fact that these people were drugged. They didn't even know what they were participating in at times. It's almost unimaginable. The sickness that is not just Sean Combs, but the whole Combs enterprise and everybody who participated in it.
Yeah. I mean, this is just the beginning of this because of what you're saying, a lot of people, and there are a lot of names of a lot of people in the Combs enterprises, Puffy, Bad Boy Company, Light that are going to be in there. A lot of people names are in there. All of these people are going to have to choose between their freedom, because the government's going to want to get Diddy, between their freedom and things that they've been hiding for a long time. You're going to start seeing people flip left and right. All the people that you're talking about that are involved in this, all the people that saw stuff, all the people that he had stuff on, doesn't matter what he has on them, right? And there are probably a lot of people right now that are freaking out because if all of this video, this leverage that he has is in the hands of the government, they're wondering if this stuff is going to ever see the light of day. Imagine all of those years being party to such disgusting stuff like this and not saying anything because you feel like someone has some sort of blackmail over you, and then it comes out anyway.
It's a miracle, and maybe we just don't know yet, that like somebody's life wasn't lost or somebody wasn't hostile. I mean, like the drugging, they said that this went on for days at a time.
Yeah.
It's almost a miracle. And I hope that didn't happen, but that somebody's life wasn't, lost in all of this. And there was something you said, not people leaving. Oh, it makes me wonder too. Diddy had shows. There might be footage out there of him harassing, abuse, something that contributes to these allegations, whether it might be on an MTV, a VH1. He had I Want to Work for Diddy. He had Making the Bands. There could be other footage out there that might involve some of these networks where they're subpoenaing this to see, because Aubrey has spoken out about abuse. Don Richard, I'm get a pronunciation right this time, has done it as well. It just makes me wonder if there's even more stuff out there.
So let me ask you about that, because I always thought that in light of this, the reason why some other people weren't coming forward without really knowing about, blackmail stuff was because maybe they had NDAs. If the government wants you to talk, or if Puff is arrested, do those NDAs that say you can't talk about what you saw, I mean, obviously, those NDAs don't hold up if the government wants to talk to you.
Yeah, I would imagine Cassie was under one.
Right. So all of that type of stuff, are those people free to speak and tell their stories? Because I would imagine there are probably a lot of people out there that want to talk and want to say stuff that maybe felt like they couldn't before.
I mean, I would imagine that you can't, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that, like I said, I'm sure Cassie was under one. And Cassie, has spoken out and received a settlement, and she's cooperating with the FBI. I would imagine if an NDA is unconscionable and asks you to, do something that's illegal or, impede some type of investigation, then I would imagine that you can break it and it doesn't hold weight anymore. I would believe that that's the case. I don't really know the law on that, but I would imagine that's the case.
I know people that used to work for him, that would not even mention that would not even mention his name when asked about it. Won't even give you the first syllable of a sentence when asked about their time with him.
I actually know somebody who worked for him too, but I have never asked.
Yeah.
They were on I Want to Work for Diddy, and I think that they didn't win, but they continued to work. Maybe they did win. Anyways, I've never asked.
Interesting.
But I also know somebody else who was really close to him too, and I've never asked.
Another aspect of this, or a piece of information, is that when he was arrested, law enforcement found what they suspected to be narcotics in his hotel room in the form of a pink powder.
Yeah.
Now, this pink powder has been greatly speculated on. It was Tusi? What is it called? Donnie, look that up. Tusi.
Oh, is that what it was? It was Tusi?
Well, that's what.
What, Van? Don't do that.
Very, very, very interesting. Yeah. Well, I would imagine that that's what it is, because that is apparently the drug that allegedly people were bringing on planes for him and transporting across state lines for him and all of that stuff. Here's the deal. Anyone in Puff's inner circle, just know that whatever you have to say, whatever you have to do to demonstrate that you weren't a part of any of this stuff, you're going to have to do it now. Not just in the court of public opinion anymore, in the court of courts. It's not in the court of public opinion anymore. Whether or not you were hanging out with Puff, or whether or not you were still walking around being seen with Puff, whatever, it's not in the court of public opinion anymore, right? And to be honest with you, it wasn't in the court of public opinion when all of these allegations came out. It wasn't in the court of public opinion after the video came out. It's out of the court of public opinion now. It's in the court now. So this is not about you thinking that people are going to not like you or not support you or think that you support abuse or anything like that. This is about, like Charlamagne said this earlier, it's about your freedom. About like what you've been party to and what you've seen and what you've covered up for. And also, I'll say this as well, man. To the guys coming up behind us, the youngsters coming up behind us, the generations behind us, man, pick better heroes. Like, pick better heroes, pick better cultural gods, like, vet it. Like, look up to people for more than the shiny suits and the lifestyle that they sell and the music that they make. Look up to people for how they protect people, for how they empower people, for how they view people. Like Kendra says, the party is over. Like, change the party.
Can I ask you this?
Sure.
Somebody who's not privy to knowing Diddy or knowing somebody who's close to Diddy, somebody who is unfamiliar with Hollywood and the ins and outs and the darkness of it all, somebody who's from Baton Rouge, from Dallas, Texas, who listens to Diddy, who sees that he has a lot of charitable contributions, who sees that he's a family man, who sees that he gets keys to the city, who sees that, he's a businessman. How would you know not to make him your hero?
It's a good question. I'm going to be honest with you. And this is going to sound so inaccurate and weird. We know, right? We know why we exalt people to the next level. We know why. Like, we know why we do it. And people achieving things is like fantastic, right? For me, I come from a place where people don't achieve like that, where people don't get that type of, they don't make it to that type of plane. Like, if you make it out of Baton Rouge, if you make it out of Oak Cliff, like, people celebrate that. They celebrate the fact that they're just still breathing after being born into some of those places. But like, it comes back down to the things that you celebrate. Like, we celebrate winning. We celebrate the accumulation of wealth. We celebrate dominance. We celebrate all of that stuff. And we, myself included, we give these guys a mandate in not demanding more of them in whatever way that we would demand more of them, to feel like little gods, little deities, right? To not have to think about people, to think about themselves. And he was getting into, he essentially created his own world where only his pleasure, his power, and his domination mattered. Because we screamed his name wherever he went.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit less screaming and a little bit more invested. And that's for me too, because it's not just him, it's anybody else that super duper inspires you. We really might be coming to a time, and I hope that we are, where we separate art from artists, not in terms of what they've done wrong, but what they've done right. Just because you are good at something or because you've achieved something, that doesn't mean that you get to be exalted or revered for anything more than that. This doesn't mean that people have to roll out the red carpet for you for wherever you go. Like, what are you doing to impact people, to protect people? What are you doing to change the structures that put the rest of our community and our culture in these disadvantaged situations? And we know when it's a donation, and we know when you're doing it from your heart. We know. I'm babbling again, and I'm using my second ramble already, but we know, but it feels good to be in the orbit of some of these people because we believe so much in the ideas of capitalism, in the ideas of success, and in the ideas of transcendence that we've been taught. And so there's all of these things that we sweep under the rug and we look past, So you're right. It is a little unfair, Everybody, I can tell you one thing right now. There's so many people. It's just very, very difficult to have been around in a certain part of this industry or this town and not had any dealings with them. I mean, right now, like all day long, way before this, activists I know are like, oh my God. Like, business people and producers I know are like, oh my God. Singers, rappers, all of these people, just people that he just
preachers.
Knew that would be at the preachers are like, oh my God. Everybody's like, oh my God. Everyone. Well, I mean, this could be a situation to where that moment happens. He gets his comeuppance, and then we pat ourselves on the back like, okay, he's out of there. But if we take a step back to look at the cultural ramifications in this and what this actually means, and what we could actually do, then you're able to move forward, and hopefully the next time we won't be blinded by the shiny suits and the name up in lights. Maybe we'll endeavor to peer a little deeper,
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. We could end it on that.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll continue to keep you guys posted on, like what's to come. As you said, there's going to be way more of a rollout as the investigation continues, and more people are named, because that's going to happen too.
You think more people are going to be named? You think there are going to be more names that come out?
Has to be. There's an entire section dedicated to the Combs enterprise. They talk about assistants, or at least he did in his speech, assistants and, employees that worked for him to get his drugs, to get these women and men involved in these freak-offs. He didn't do this alone. I'm sure Diddy was 3-4 people removed from what was going on, if not more. So there's no way. And I'm sure some of these people have already been cooperating, which is why they have as much as they do as well.
Probably already talking to the feds and stuff like that, saving their own skins and stuff.
Absolutely.
I think there are probably definitely more people. I think they're going to be, when this goes to trial, if it in fact does go to trial, which I would imagine that it would, that there'll be celebrities called. What I don't know is like how quick the government gets to trial, because he's in jail right now on a $50 million. Well, they denied a $50 million bond.
Yeah.
So he's
That's-
going to be in there for a while. Like, how long what is the time frame?
I mean, he's being held right now at the special housing unit in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn until his next appearance, which is tomorrow afternoon. I mean, they can ask for it to be rushed, but it's going to be some months. I mean, you can ask for an expedited trial, but the question is, does he do bench? Does he do jury? He's got to go to trial on it. There's too much against him. I mean, he's going to be in jail for years. You might as well try to fight for it. The question is, do you want this stuff to come out? They're not going to settle with Diddy in a way where there's not going to be some, not settle, but there's not going to be some type of plea deal.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a plea deal that gets him out of jail. Unless there's somebody bigger than Diddy, unless there's a bigger name out there that was really running the Combs enterprise and they get the big fish in all of it. He is the big fish.
They got the guy they want.
He's going to jail for years, or he's going to trial and all the shit's going to come out and he's still going to go to jail for years. Unless there's some technical difficulty, technicality that he's able to appeal it on, similar to what we saw with Bill Cosby. Mm-hmm. But Bill Cosby still was in jail.
That wasn't
what I mean?
But
my point is, you can still appeal a case and you appeal on it based on a technicality, like something that was an error, is what I should say. And so, but you would be sitting in jail the entire time. I mean, unless the judge changes something tomorrow. Diddy's going to jail.
Yeah, it's over. It's over. You know what? I always wonder in these types of situations, man. Because obviously he's mutated, right? He's not a person anymore. Like sure. once you're involved in this type of deal, it's like I sometimes watch those old mob interviews.
Okay.
And when you're watching one of those mob interviews, you listen to one of these guys and it'll be up there and it'll be like, this is Jimmy the Shark Rosado. Killed 40 people, right? Mm-hmm. And they always come back to the same question, to the Jimmy the Sharks of the world. And by the way, I made that name up. Jimmy the Shark, if you're really out there.
I think we do that.
All right, Jimmy the Shark, if you're really out there, my nigga, I don't want any smoke with you, Shark. All right. And they always ask them the same question eventually. It's like, oh my God, what was it like the first time you had to do it? First time you had to kill someone. And, Jimmy the Shark says, well, the first time, it's the toughest time. You're nervous. You're shaking. You never forget it. You're haunted. You think about them. You remember it. You remember the person that put you up to it. You remember, the day you got your butt, the day you made your bones. You never forget it.
Okay.
But then he goes, after that, you never seen this before? You never watched these? Wow. And then after that, but then they all go. After that, it's no big deal. After that, it's boom, 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 pow. Like,
well, you can do it.
You've done it. You kill somebody. After that, it's not that big of a deal. After that, it's bang, 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 bang. And that feeling that they feel when they're doing that first hit is their humanity leaving them.
Yeah.
Is their empathy leaving them.
Uh-huh.
They have an idea of what it's like to take a human life, and that's based upon empathy and how they feel about other things, and then they do it, and they move past it, and then they can do it. Same thing with this guy. You look at him, by the time he was doing all of this stuff, not only did he not care about doing it, he thought he was being persecuted. He thought people were treating him unfairly.
Yeah.
It's remarkably disgusting. This is the beginning.
This is the beginning.
This is the beginning.
Well,
this is the beginning, Rachel. All right. We're out of here. Do you want to talk about the? No. You want to talk about the shits and giggles guy? You put that in the These guys trying to
No,
have
no,
this
no.
podcast?
Let's save that for tomorrow.
Okay.
I can't deal with any more piss poor men. Almost said black.
Oh shit. Say it. Like I didn't even know.
No.
Yeah, they dissed the women in
People
Atlanta.
love them. But wait. Yes, but like we got to talk about the Andrew Schultz of it all too. All right? I'm not letting that I'm really in a cursing mood. I almost said something. We ain't letting Andrew off the hook too. I'm not just about to blame this on him, okay? That man is problematic, and we're going to get into that in the next podcast. I'm coming for Andrew.
Wow. Oh, you're coming for Andrew Schultz.
That's on the next Higher Learning.
Here it is.
Donnie, play Hit 'Em Up.
Oh my God, Rachel, you got the diss
First
track.
off,
You got the diss track for Andrew Schultz on the next.
no, that's for everybody. That's for all of them.
All right, we up out of here. Take your thinking caps off, but do not stop learning. Be good to each other, you guys, and
Yeah.
all work on accountability. I'll be the first, and you be the last. I'm Van Lee.
I'm Rachel and Lindsay. Bye, guys.